Indeed, o mani be ya efriye yankasa. Yenkoni yankoma yenuya eye nanachi akwaba. Nana, good afternoon. Yamo akwaba ba Rainbow Radio so.
Yeah, Dr. Ryan Bejo so.
The way I watching say comfortable, relax. I said yeah. One day say MPP ni NDC say china de ampaye bedwa o.
Sure da. Na dem basa betras na me feel comfortable. I have.
Na mamimbu sa wo. Yes, this particular second term of na Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Na memwe ye den tokwa ne din kan sha ase. Obi kura fa ballot paper e di dwane ye. Ye kwa wie ye nso akwa ese. Mentimi wansi bi wanhwe ni a wochina. Wanhwe ni na afa di the beginning no an ye sade kwa wie you. Ene majority seat no wan wonfa. Nana emu akwaba.
Yeah, Dr. Ryan, my major so na menchia wono watie for. I think say enye nwanwa bebre because you see say what na say kwan na fa so a play out in recent times. The stakes in our politics, to a certain extent, are changing. And ama obia you're very aggressive because of where mana power has been abused in this country over the years. Ama opposition where NDC near pressure is being exerted from the grassroots. Some to me, mama, you've not been effective. And mama kwan ama Akufo-Addo ye de oye because emrabi o ha mo ana mo time na chi na ye jitum. So there is that pressure from the base. So clearly where NDC MP there's pressure on you just to do something to ensure say we base no benya trust e wo mu. Say ye nchale and now we MPP ni so wa ban no seat in parliament we need massive controls. And there was one flexible muscles. Now one year be opposition be also. And I think it has been a done affair from day one. Basing there is the reason why who the costly. Now nina has to do with the kind of leadership I womb. Because I believe sir in the past, you who never be to say Kufuor pencil, Rollins the pencil. Amamono will not always go the way I will be a pet. And Dr. Ren. Sometimes you may not have enough to complain about, especially when it comes to Myanmar. It has to do with our democracy. But so see the heartbeat of our democracy, the very foundation, the sanctity of state institution, everything is on the line. I think some of these things, it's just a manifestation of a deep-seated cracks. I your politics, and yes, a accident. It's just a manifestation of what is inherently, a penny politics and so-called democracy, and some of this aggression and as if as long as people continue to take over the social media space. About 10 years ago, now you were consumers of information, but now you're consumer BRBM. You're prosumers. Prosumers means that we are makers, creators, and consumers of the same information at the same time. You go on social media, you make news. Whatever you make, somebody will add something to it and also make another news because our large following not on the continue post in the page now or the person becomes a newsmaker, a news producer. And the first and now you wait inside daily graphic, the news, then you become a consumer. You wait for Dr. Ren to come on radio to educate people. No, and then we are creating the news. We are producers, so we are prosumers instead of consumers. And the I'm fire very critical and vocal. And it's our political stage now. You need to turn around and look at Myanmar happen around you. Now what the total Myanmar and going forward, like I said, it's going to be you say but you beg the crutching way because people on the ground now over the years among getting involved in politics and they are all actively getting involved because my culture said there is a free flow of information. Nobody consumes information and sits idle. No. While betting information one way or the other, you will act on it. And people acting on information is exerting pressure on those at the corridors of power, and they have no other option than to react the way a manner So I'm not sure I want to be brave.
Na where you be back say ye call as 70 more say speaker say enipa and nine one seat no were declared vacant because any one position assessor. And ain't no sa assessor there. And ma a year the minority party no would not to me a majority. Majority is so entiasie. Ye be call Supreme Court near kwa kusiki interpretation. Yen hwen nsɛm kakra na yewia yakɔ ɛyɛ Supreme Court nso ne nsɛm a wɔde bɛto hɔ bi mu kra so asɛm a Supreme Court de bɛto hɔ kra wie yi kra no amankyirikyiri mu enti ɛyɛ de no wotimi ɛde taboa to ɛyɛ nsɛm no a ɛyɛ speaker etimi declare no sɛ we de speaker ka de na nso so ɛmɛ mfa nyɛ adwuma yen hwa asɛm nim obi bɛka sɛ speaker wɔyɛ ne ye ana wanyɛ ne ye.
But I think that some race I hope public discourse here concerning this particular matter. Position I will be able to keep is largely informed by where the person stands across the political divide. And I've seen a few neutral people who have made certain public pronouncement on the matter. And some of them position, take it back to Abrana Professor Michael Quay, your friend is Speaker of Parliament, or making such a declaration as CMA yenim no on the sufferer of that particular fate.
For Mena MP.
Exactly. Such discussion as a point in a call. But you see, the principal position is Dr. Ren, you can't sources of law. Your friend is precedent are very, very, very important. Very, 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 very important. And Parliament as a state, as an institution, an arm of government, is separate on its own. Was certain power authority be within the house, Kasa will have that particular power to do their own thing. The principle of separation of powers, insulated parliament. Nema Sebi. About crime for to Nema until say unless say Nema parliament by infringe on the fundamental right of the people, and I say the poor move and outside, and I'm Rabi Umbeshano, our certain inimical effect to be on the life of the people, no parliament because we're in a juma until such red flags are raising, and sana another body may come in to intervene. So the question is at this point, Adia BSC, I'm a parliament, I the bonnet, I say, yenya such an external way. To begin with, so here near in some way, of course, yeah. As a way MP. Na say Oko Parliament in the name of NDC and na MPP. Na eduru baby now say, oh, me call in the name of NDC. Na me pese me koso aye adwuma for NDC BM na mo me pese be call MPP a. Emrano say because of that particular situation, I will kura party no card na wo de buy party ni dim na ejina so to abama o ntino. Whenever there is a shift in your position in that particular regard now, your position becomes untenable. Won't mean to parliament because the whole essence of this constitutional provision, because of Kwame Nkrumah, so call article your constitution, I think is Article 97 clause 1G. And Kwame Nkrumah as a clause in the way your constitution, because Abra always ne party CPP when they power no. Now, I say House of Folk no kotoko. Your top players from smaller teams, they were poaching other people from Parliament. So Ghana for anybody no. Na Ghana by one party state because na Nkrumah CPP ato MPs or more Parliament mo na baka the party we ya ho hwea enye. So the 1992 Constitution framers realized said no, in order to avoid that particular situation from happening, yen kase say party A. Now also cross carpet to party B. What it means that o candidature what for future you have to go back and contest fresh elections. Now so when on the ticket of a new party now, then you come back to the house.
It is what for fate
that and it makes sense because when you are reading the constitutional provision normally the letter na nkasa but the intent. So the spirit, the intent of that particular provision, is to guarantee the allegiance of members of parliament. And untina makekwe ejina saade no so edi from na MP no di free ho. And again, another interesting argument is that Dr. Ren, NDC wanamara, MPP wanamara. I understand these laws of the various political parties, as compared to the constitution. The constitution is superior. That one is granted. But NPP for one say, so we MPP ni, na say o conteste our MPP demo. Any moment be obe free party num, and I will declare intention. Kra na wodo wa no beka say, and now be your campaign tie nipa na or represent party no automatically no free party num. It is over here, Omudi Biadi Alan Tramanten. Over here, Omudi Biadi Nana Hininto. So, a automatic for future, our free party. And this Obi Elusun the candidate because the party membership because of such a declaration. The question is that person, the position in parliament, is it a net turn up one? Because party not over, so the spirit of that constitutional provision to guarantee allegiance, that particular allegiance, can no longer be guaranteed. But you see, the entire argument way about nipa bebre ehu some faswa bebre no e kasa emana ne say a few days to elections and unti na hu ni say no. But Dr. Ryan, I miss a question back up and you conclude on this particular part. Let's imagine say year 2020 elections we ya a month after and na okuja to ablakwa ebe kan say what free neko or the next 2024 elections or best standing in the name of MPP our ne constituency now we make that declaration every process be a obey be a 2024 election or contested on the ticket of MPP ayokuja to ablakwa maybe say what 1 month of parliament, would you say he should continue to work with the NDC for the time I can?
That day no crumble pamano. Homba pamani from the seat ni so. NDC bomba pamano so on count who be.
So say Samrano, the position about any say of course ye NDC near. Then time na you woman and they know I inconsequential. The only difference at that time is Okuja to make it that declaration. Party the membership of free some the position in parliament per article 97 clause 5G become untenable. He has to go and contest fresh elections. Said by ya unkonko nyobi or ya parliamenta ne allegiance to party or the buyer shifted and shaky because that is what the constitution is seeking to protect. And says ye be na free ama ya contest fresh elections in line with nema asi penya adenti na baby a people are going the same line. Yes, and they need to stay in parliament. That is the question. And the baby imagine ruling now speaker the babon per president ho and per the fact say nipa no even party no move free more bad crowd and the mara say once you shift in allegiance and also change your position as a for or candidate channel is forfeited. What for future? This is what for future. Then your presence in parliament, so it's questionable. Even the standing orders are here to our house. And see, I'm not sure say ruling out of place. And so here the other day, won't mean Jina party A and Kase me koso wa hasei na future election there me wa hasei. Obianka say ye pamo free parliament ye say yatiase then go back to the constituency na constituency the new party now say ubejire mama no na ko jina na ye nto aba no foforo but the only difference here ne say so we mere na aka ya nim na there is no time for these people to go back to their constituency for fresh elections enunti na dedeni na se fo nyina ekoso no because whatever be the outcome we will have to wait till the December elections. Yeah, because time now can electoral commission and go run the fresh elections. But and yes, elections and air back. That's the same way as 2023 and kind of next 4 or 3 months, as electoral commission a date. Am I acquire fresh elections? And to my culture, a time is of no relevance. We are talking about the matter in question now, the basic fundamental principle. And then over the years, yeah, you will implement your baby scene, that is what is exactly in play, and then I can't want them. And then, met him the Supreme Court to the not to us.
For Supreme Court, the end to us.
Yes. So we have the principle of separation of powers now. Said na Mexican, I insulated these powerful arms of government. They work independently. But what was your government behind? So we need be a friend. Check up the principle of check and balances.
Yeah.
Say by your friend is saying one house and as one arm of government and weld certain overriding power be or abuse democracy na mana. So at any point in time, no obia exercise certain power, certain authority over the other. And this over every appointment be a president no has to be ratified or approved by parliament. And yes, sir, appointment null and void. So president Tiakonyaso no disabia nkrasi sama na say ensembuna parliament have the power to take the president out through vote of no confidence. So that power is there. The same way parliament ya na mra na emra no say president ansanya enyamra. Sana chief justice, say president appointed chief justice. I just call parliament, one parliament jinu tumansa. Sana chief court no so to me says parliament yemra we na emra no babonten na certain provisions of it inconsistent with the provisions of the 1992 constitution. Court no betimi rule to akacha parliament as amra way unconstitutional. So that particular power is there, but in the exercise of their a fundamental right there such interference anyhow anything at the last time no argument na make sure say President Akufo-Addo get bill from parliament na say sign no court on earth and a bit me stop and say don't sign na say sign because at that point or exercise a certain fundamental right or as president of the land but say sign we now we free say sign a was sign no unconstitutional. At that point you can begin any legal process to torpedo that particular way na president diaba no.
Inti ye can say you know just ye funny to say Richard Sky the eye be man be da oba no obeda a ye bill ne da president and him no one sign na wo call Supreme Court no eye de intina the executive secretary to the president e be catch and say president onyan sign because assembly crowd will be at the Supreme Court.
So, and clearly it was not grounded on anything, just politics. People were just flexing their muscles because president in the exercise of his function, you cannot stop him. Parliament, it's in the parliament, you cannot go to parliament and say, hey, and I'm on tenacity. Nobody can do that.
President is saying we and Richard Sky across Supreme Court to seek interpretation to the bill now by law. No?
Exactly. And at that point, Supreme Court will to me to declare that thing null and void. But in the exercise of his fundamental duty, our president is shielded and protected by your friend say that principle of your friend say separation of powers, and the 2 million source grounded in the constitution. You cannot stop the president. The same way you cannot stop parliament from sitting. And I said, anything earlier, Abraham parliament consider that law, a court. Professor Biwo University of Ghana, the assembly court. I'm a court to catch it and say. In the exercise of their basic functions, our court our parliament court cannot direct or stop parliament from the bill and yet na say on train that is what happened. Our court rule the buy and in this particular video sanity and is a speaker of parliament such declaration banner or yena juma within the house na say or the bar bontia. Dr. Ren, I don't want to go into previous arguments na me no aye in the past say your friend say emrana say net ya na say enye say net ya, but there are certain key things as your hand ya can one. We are talking about separation of powers these institutions are there speaker your friend saying a hefa and a demonstrating flagrant abuse of the powers anunti court to ebe wura parliament and directed parliament what to do. That is the first question that we should be asking. Because are there not a follow within the remit of parliament, guided by one president, two by the constitution, and third by standing orders of parliament. And at what basis? And there waging swa or the man that particular mrano. But I don't want to go there because Supreme Court ain't ruling on that particular matter. So what's your public discourse now? People are making it look like Supreme Court abo rule decision na to agu. Onya montungu ye. Onya ni asem no. Na mom stay and a issue. And hypocrisy ewo ade we na mbeda na di say. So wo he nsem na e call so that. Afenyo marking Abrana speaker ade really no beba abonten no onyam fa ma abonten kra no na ofale suit at the Supreme Court seeking to injunct Speaker of Parliament is a man for ruling no kra ma abonten but obeduru court no na ruling no already no na speaker na ready that then I think that whether he amended the application or not and or call parliament or call court ko ka kire omo say the speaker no say e kwaso na say ejina e be say parliamentary business na asefo enti court no njina o hyew so and he went to court through S party court no njina o hyew so na on stop it speaker say asem na waka no on fan to ma na nya adwuma he should not execute it until the main issue is resolved. One, you can't S party application. S party applications are Dr. Ren, SMBSC, and very often open institution back home who use S party power chroma and Ghana Police Service. Oh yes, I will call them.
Oh yes, I'll call demonstration. I'll see S party application.
Yes, S party is under special circumstances because ebia obi kwa ya ade. Wunya daje friendly panel ne lawyers ne nasefo. But one to me can quack or catch a court na ma court na stop ya na oh yeah na so mo koso ya. The thing will cause irreparable damage. We are home share any. So under that special circumstance, and obi will right to go to court through S party. And again, Supreme Court by convention, say Friday. According to way, they don't sit down on Friday. So for him to go to court through S party to get the Chief Justice in the team on Friday to sit down within a short period, when sensitive and critical issues are also change, that is why I Ghana for Ekasao. It is not about.
So you think Supreme Court shouldn't have entertained a year Afenyo Markins S party?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because let me read ruling now Supreme Court the by and I'm sure portions of it are all say Nipana ye omo free parliament among natural rights a breach because they were not given the opportunity to be heard. Now we'll go through S party no speaker ne other attorney general now do omo kono. So among basic rights and as far as been breached because they were not heard in court one now call here. But at the end they were one circumstances na any ruling now. Your friends are in Supreme Court the Bible I don't know whether you have a copy. Let me just try and pull it. Okay, I will say. My main kind court no decision or make here. Okay, this is the court. I'll say the plaintiff or the applicant has presented this as party application for stay of execution of a ruling of the Speaker of Parliament declaring vacant the seat of 4 MPs and ordering the current members of Parliament to vacate their seat in Parliament on account of his declaration. We have read the supporting affidavit and attached exhibit, as well as the release and endorsed on the writ of sermon filed on the 15th of October 2024, which provide the basis of the current defense application. This is the court talking. I'll say note from exhibit B, the official report on the parliamentary debate on Thursday, 17th October 2024, pages 15, 16, 17, that the Speaker of Parliament was aware of the bailiff of the Supreme Court had served the current action on him through the legal office of Parliament. His objection, so what it says, Speaker, yes, so let me skip that part. Okay, so the said 4 constituencies in the Ashanti region, blah, blah, the applicant urged, Ahana Asemno or say the applicant urged, and we appreciate that the said ruling will likely lead to alleged thwarting of government business in Parliament and plunge due management of the affairs of the country into possible disruption. Grounds are afenyo marking at the core for S party the new. Or say ADBS parliament ho. As a Supreme Court na yen tentem antie or non kwa na say okoso masa ade ni gina. Government business e wo house wo nyina e be say. So the questioner as a normal person ye bisa e ho say this 4 MPs free ma parliament ebe close down na e jabeto man as ade e be si a parliament entimi nye business. That is a question. We are not talking about because you're judges, you're lawyers, so we are not talking about the substantive matter which has not been heard, but we are talking about grounds court not they granted the S party. And I find your marking reason by the court no say they agree no, and then I'm marking no.
Yes.
Second, or say further, the subject of this suit raises real question of constitutional interpretation and application of the most fundamental and democratic right of Ghanaians, being the right to be represented in heard in parliament through their reps. If this impugn to Supreme Court describing the ruling of the speaker and say, if this impugned order and ruling is allowed to stand, it will render grave issue raised in the substantive action nugatory. Okay, so Supreme Court to say issue has to do with the fundamental rights of people. And to say a question as one stop here. Some people will be denied or more right to be represented. And I maybe say, Dr. Ren, the people of Shane, Lolobi na se for no,
Central Coffee, Akpafu, Lolobi, any likpe.
Omoya nkoko. Omo nye nipa sabi omo ye a bunch of way nti omo do mu hia representative a enye. These people in this 4 constituency for 4 weeks, Supreme Court to say yama omo MPs na nko parliament a ye be cause so irreparable damage. Damage no ye no ho hwea enye. Ba sha ne lolobi for there anam sabi omo ye nkoko nti no omo there they can sit there for 4 years without representative. I am saying this because when the issue went to court, the Supreme Court said, they should regularize that particular way and ensure, in the next 4 years, they will be represented. That is what the Supreme Court said.
Yes, yes, Sancho Kofi Akpafu Lolobi Likpeno Sana Sao kan send ye tie ne de yen hwe na yenye yi, but when we dey enemy dey yes ye be friend is saying ye be twa wo mu aye constituency no wo mu ankasa wo mu hyebre ne ye be twa to atwene a enye papa emfa ma constituency for na to abade ma eye wo mu parliamentary candidate no.
Yes. So, and I'll say on the balance of the law, exhibit and fact placed before us, we are satisfied that the duly elected representatives in question were not heard on the extremely critical issue raised, and therefore we make the following orders. And the court now will be about for S party, no. I don't know one tier speaker and tier other people, no, cause the 4 MPs no were not heard in parliament, and for that matter, no, are grounds for him to grant this S party. And they gave the consequential orders, so which I don't want to go into. So these are basic issues. Emma Ghana for trust in the Supreme Court, and as for one has to do with the hasty manner. Because in Sama Kesia Supreme Court besin Chief Justice Enyan seti date na campus Yahuda so. Because if it is about priority, you cannot tell me, say, LGBTQ case, any priority. Because it's the issue affecting virtually everybody in this country. A sort of 4-year demonstration, a clamophobia demonstration, a boss more kasa, be a kasa ukruma say. So you can say I did be a priority, and then a change way in terms of priority.
No crown so a far a year there working LGBTQ kikanya working crown there. And no crown ye parliamentarians in our cry to say. Eye emrano eye nhwe omampanyin mfa ne signature and science ye na sebi be mane be meda no oba no obeda no se ye kwachiwa na je se wuti amra je se parliament kra no kra foa so no akwakoda president nim ye si nipa baako ese wono de wonti asienti the whole parliamentarians no mo represent the people no wo mo no nsem no mo agye atumu no kra no ye ntwintwan so ansa na Supreme Court de hu mu ayaba.
And that is the funny aspect of it. You see, Makasa, the era, yeah.
So you think the Supreme Court is not being fair to the people of Ghana?
Oh, I think the Supreme Court are lose respect in the essence. Yeah, today most Ghanaians see SUNO as a political institution. Just people sitting there doing the bidding of their political masters, nothing else. Because we live in a country where rulings come from Supreme Court, and as if say about the rule, everybody go on social media and they ridicule them. Say now no Ghana, so oko Twitter. Two never me no trend. One, more. Second, your first unanimous FC. Dr. Ren, this is the Supreme Court of the land. Trending one, more, and more like animals. And the second one, unanimous FC.
The Supreme Justices of the land of Ghana.
Exactly. The highest pinnacle of judicial power.
Whenever laws are created, the conscience of men comes alive. The conscience of
yes, and you see, the Supreme Court got same way so. Now, or the ruling by speaker, any who kind say obey declare seat, where yeah. I don't have any problem with it. But you see, the circumstances in a kind of more conducting or more. That is where my worry is. Conversation, I am not determining whether a speaker's action is lawful or unlawful. But the circumstances are the Supreme Court are conducting, especially one. The swift manner, yet me say Friday, a convention, they don't sit on Friday to get a panel to decide on this particular matter, to tell the speaker, say, ruling, no, onjina ho, and I will have reasons, on my, in the, your friends, a ruling, no, my, or describing the ruling of the speaker, say, a impugned ruling, ye janas a stand there, and a friend marking reliefs in Wahoo. I think they me jabakum, Dr. Ren.
So what year a dear ora a year some a year or a year okujeto a year renowned legal a year practitioner no assembly working you will say Parliament makes the law but it doesn't interpret the law. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Intino a banisadia nanka ubeka say ene die Parliament no ono no de so no wo hemra no a emra no wo mo be kyerɛkyerɛ mra nim no the Supreme Court, and it is so far a year the 1992 Constitution here. Now we share the expert Shraj interested versus a year Richard Anane. Now with the back a year a friend is saying Article 1-2, and a year the Article 295 here. Oba a year I am. Well, we see the MPP versus a Attorney General Abdullah versus Attorney General a MPP versus Attorney General a CE. We make us a same way you know there the PFA say yes, the Parliament no akase the seats a vacant until we declare be a minority as the majority no, but so no one so mere yo mu ye no a Supreme Court ne be kyerɛ say Supreme Court akase the Parliament ye dear Sebio and Tasumwa and Kananka Yama and Branis was
I think the Okuja Tolo Odim Dioka or he's a lawyer and he has been several years of experience. But when it comes to some of these things, partisan thinking override their sense of reasoning. So and some now all kinds of parliaments in the church Dr. Ran wins a parliament in the church who doesn't know? Obianim. Nobody is contesting that. So it's like
it's a Supreme Court na church
and that's why name. Yati Kruma say your friends a gawo for na church remram. And farmers in the church remram. Obianim is Supreme Court na church remram. So it's just reinventing the wheel. The fact is something fundamental has gone wrong. And most of the discussion there, because Opa monitor radio. I say people are not challenging the powers of the Supreme Court. Arguments I am not challenging the powers of the Supreme Court. Is the reason why I am not dwelling my argument on the constitutionality of what the speaker did. Now, circumstances are leading to this particular decision.
Yes.
Sir, I told the idea within 12 hours. Chief Justice betimi constitute panel aba mo atena ase when critical issues were also chain way at the what to date kura nyanya bi yet kroma na electoral commission at the NDC ne electoral commission nya issue related to registration at party offices in nasa for no omodi issue NDC and 6 other political parties omodi issue no court no almost say Chief Justice atukwan ontimi mandate agisa oba Chief Justice come back now electoral commission aye the obeya so the issue became dead. So you see event na see okroma kwan Chief Justice and justices na conduct your mohono and not asem na ye kan o. It is not about who interpret who or who interpret what. And again, so wo he nsem na aye afenyo mark in the court na. Me say let me try and read something to you.
And
I say one S party because I say the entire Oba S party ne say and sa reasons when a court no gina so grant yellow because asem no yentie ye. I say we refer to paragraph 8 on the enumeration of 6 grounds why officially say omuntie no S party na mo hold decision and I make actually we S party because of the likely mischief being a halt to business of parliament, especially committees chaired by the current members. Dr. Ren, Afenya Markin say yenti ono kwana yan suspend the end because NDC for no speaker no omo ye mischief our parliament omo pese omo say aban business I cause in the house. So we a Supreme Court judge and the question is what business na NDC ne speaker aye mischief to destroy it. Say 4 MPs we free parliament omo kwa parliament no ombetum e de kradu atum de akofie. And now mbetwe ja to parliament num and now parliament cannot get the quorum for me to do business and now this is a fundamental question that we need to ask. There are 275 MPs in parliament. Say 4 kofia on what basis and abaka say obi ye mischief to stop parliamentary business. This is a basic common argument we can make. And we a Supreme Court now we do not this reason so can say other parliamentarians they are mischievous. Is even an insult say omo to no mo ye mamboye for no mugu parliament omo pese omo say government business enuntina maba for S party and court to say makan me no ya adwen. So the basic question me no ye judge na be say ho no say sa nipa for no free ma to what extent and say government business. You need to offer explanation. Government business ben say no. And again, second one I say likelihood of the current minority members doing everything in their powers to hold the business of government in this dying minute. The same argument. Why he's coming as party say minority in this for near mamboye for say wanyana say nipa for no ekofia they will destroy government business. Other one, a delay of government appropriation which could require the approval and the war winning. Sika semnen as a form because sika ebe spending as for omunya parliament to approve. The last one I say the ruling amount to denial of the constitutional right of these 4 constituencies to be lawfully represented in parliament. And I maybe say sha for any lolo before they said they don't need a representative in parliament. Clearly the speaker of parliament was usurping the original exclusive jurisdiction of the honorable court and he himself recognized it. So basis are other core, yes, sir. So main issue need to be and nobody is arguing because still are our court. But circumstances, reasons are the core S party and why court swiftly against all odds because winning answer na in some no bobano na metie abrantie bi wo Joy FM. I don't know if there's something Evans. Yes, Medina I can't wanna be refi. Or say Babia ne concern say Supreme Court betimi stop speaker the all ye no kra na say okoma ruling na there na Ghana for beka because LGBT1 number top until date munya my ruling.
It say Supreme Court Ubebisa say womo consider public opinion kra there.
That is the question that we need because omunima omo consider public opinion. Kamenya sure say the ekosi and we see teteno na betimi akasa metime call there me pen na meye you must be damned this current time ya ye womi to sit in the court and think, say, men are mania to me, they're pen and bay. And what lose touch with the reality because modernity has come with its own prescriptions. You cannot do without the people, the platforms for criticism and those kind of stuff. And they shape the integrity of the Supreme Court. And then if you go to Twitter, if you go to other platforms, and people are ridiculing the Supreme Court, Nipa Nabaho, Supreme Court, no money China for us, and no money Burkina for us, a Ghana for. So if consistently people don't respect the Supreme Court, what it means that time will come, they will give ruling and people will disregard it. Just imagine saying, "Me and Mafia no China, na speaker kase, wama ruling." Men so men are met in my house, but never implement here. Don't you think we're going to have a constitutional standoff in this country? And do you think that is good for democracy?
The minority and now majority a year chief whip say, "Omenyan krakra say omo the soldier for the police for aban no the a year the ruling government the police near soldier for kra ebeba." And I'm also getting from other quarters from the NDC say, "Omo so say nyame aduma ochina they are going to marshal a year their supporters." Ama woman so abagana and a year the Parliament House in Tino. So say soldier fool, say police fool, come in Abomwa, they know say Greater Accra alone, no, they won there in 2020 election. And women say still now, some are very popular in the Greater Accra until they are going to call all their supporters to also come to Parliament. Some of the soldier fool power. Where are we heading towards? An anarchy?
Exactly. That is what is likely to erupt. And your democracy, that is how it's supposed to be. Because parliamentary business in the military intrusion, military way, if I could see but it happened right under our nose till date. Nobody has to resolve it. So government thinks, I have to bully my way through. And that parliament, the independence, respecting as a phobia, you will be a new because somebody sitting at the Supreme Court can just stretch an arm into the and poke the eyes of the your friends, the Speaker of Parliament, thinking say I can bully you to and get to my way. Obviously, you have the Speaker and the parliamentarians also flexing their muscles because on the balance of power, they are all equal. They are all equal. You understand? The same Speaker say unimplemented decision from the court now citing for contempt. Don't forget to say Parliament has contempt powers as well. Because also the decision, Okase has been disrespected by the court. The Chief Justice can equally be cited for parliamentary contempt. So I know the day, a buyer power play or be a flex in the muscles. You understand? And idea way, me free say a here. Because as long as these people have declared, say, main business and I'm a free party because the very moment also work independent automatically no free party no. That is what the constitution of the MPP say. But I must say until say omoba track speaker, automation is automation. You don't need to notify the speaker. Automatically you lose your seat. And nobody is saying say yeah pamwa free parliament oh. You say vehicle car now otina mu ba no yeje enti ko constituency on a kofa car for fabra
already news crown one kasa wakwa file cry say NAD say we NDC near wakwa MPP and the thing asama ye kan nya MPP for nkwanzo e bi fa NDC near ono say no NDC aka a CCC de ono no won ko NDC biem wo obekwa as konton kron into ono so ka ho ye wo MPP for nipa miensa wo so CCC de mo ko MPP biem wo mo ko mienu ese wo mo ko konton kron ne wo ba akwa no ye konton kron say NAD ono no e ba for MPP into the empanti na ama asem we no aye
yes until I share that bisa I say year 2020 elections after 2 months and okuja to ablakwa declare say NDC free na ko MPP ni no MPP oba contest 2024 ama MPP automatically olusu ne NDC membership. Na so lose the membership na parliament why ho na wugina say the constitution not making it clear because me on the balance of power sometimes I have my own concerns obiko parliament na or say or in the future on stand on the take it of the party bema automatically so lose the seat because me say it needs to affect the current parliament because as long as an allegiance and just shifted now or only allegiance to the party, but don't forget constituency honor and your party from Kwana to Abamano. So obi a NDC parliamentarian or parliamentar. There are possibilities a man for more MPP for more constituency or more to Abamano. There are possibilities a man for money party independent for more to Abamano. And once so you weigh the allegiance to the constituency and allegiance to the party. So on the constitutional basis, at the end you duly say you nullify. Is it allegiance to the people or allegiance to the base? Does it make sense? But you see, the cure our constitution now provided for that. So we wouldn't deny the people there and say give them the second chance by letting the person go back and stand a beam. Then you come back, then the allegiance will not shift. Because my culture says Samra we will because of Kwame Nkrumah, because not Opochi. I was a Chelsea, not to talk to players. Money ball wants to know what to talk MPs.
And also the Liverpool share mo say who support to Chelsea there.
Oh, made a Barcelona fan. I said, "Ya soja."
You, Buziani Ura, a year Ivan Che innocent in any education como. Oh, Obia sent him a text message. He said, Dr. Ren, can you remind me of the date of birth of Jerry John Rawlings? Hey, same with the Jerry John Rawlings Baby film we had there. I'm on for no Jerry John Rawlings here on the 22nd June 1947. I am sure. Say, I date I Tanya won 22nd June. I Konoba was say least we forget what happened to some judges. Now person mo chere dey ensem kra mesre mo was least we forget what happened in Ghana 30th June 1982. And into obi nso busa me Rawlings the date of birth nana no in connection ben the woman enkomo aye die me hunu baby a fa okay. Obisa Mema a brief history about background about the year what happened in 1982. Oh, na say na die enye ehun asem ne 1982 die nim say a year Justice Fred or year Poku Sakode na a year Justice a year Cecilia Cranting Ado ana a year a friend say Justice a year Kujo Eje Japan womo ehwere womo kwa together with a year Major a year retired Sam a year Akwa womo hwere womo kwa enti eno ye story a menim die ntia o peso ma Ivan na
those things belong to the dark pages of our political history yam pese ye bekai. But I think Nipakro can same way because of the growing anger I wa Ghana for mu because of the activities of the Supreme Court. Because if you scale back to that time there was so much anger, frustration to the stance that the ordinary person free say the courts were there for the elite power welders, no? Average ordinary Ghanaian, no courts who said we are Boabimano. They were not listening. They were not amenable to wisdom. People think say Yako school, Yako Ivy League school, na Yabana lawyers, and the Yanya Pongoti media say Yetina Yanim who will be also free Old Testament in the free talk from who no man for. But Sanemano Yene Funa man for. And the trust begin to grow. And the conference anema when you know bano. My culture says in modern jurisprudence, we are judge, we are lawyer. Make sure that you carry the people along because dispensing justice is not for animals, it's for the people. And justice, who dispensing justice are complete when the delivery is accepted by the people, not creating chaos or violence or doubt. So consistently, yes, we can agree. And yet the Biana rule in the free court will be any budget. And people are not in the Supreme Court of Ghana for any budget. No, that is not what they are supposed to do. Their job is to do the right thing. But consistently, in some be free court for Abba, a man for before, a be diatem, a be yes, na a grower. You should be smart enough, say that environment outside court, are very, very important, even more than the courtroom. Now we're taking all these things into account so that basic judicial ruling must not be devoid of reasoning, logic, and common sense. Opa kusiya law or Harvard, Opa kusiya law or Hefa. There are basic fundamental principles upon which every law revolves, and these things are common sense, reasoning, and logic. That is the only thing. Because you have to say, when legal issues about Becca say, oh, and now Sanse we munjama lawyers, not lawyers, and lawyers ain't need right to interpret constitution. The only people are constitutionally no omo akwanya to interpret constitution judges finito. Judges, lawyers have refined understanding, but okoko to adobe can be a peer opinion. The only difference between when you're a lawyer and no be a lawyer and they say he has been trained and has been given a refined understanding of the law. But the other can be a mere opinion because a lawyer cannot interpret the constitution. And until Tony Lita be court or be can semna kakasa or we are not your friends a judge in about what we say a here.
And a wooking with the already a friend Immanuel Kant. Now we a German philosopher. Assembly Wakaye was say conscience was the courtroom within the human soul, where our decisions are forever on trial. But your conscience plays every role in the courtroom drama. And so when the conscience is alive, it means that laws have been created. And he said, just say the conscience of a year. Okay, anyway, my fancy. Ora a year Godfrey Cobnedi wu ewa ha say John Diego so 80 ora Mark Ochre lawyer ewa ha say we the lawyer for no amuti no wetimi afrem na machipu in. The Supreme Court's stay on the Speaker's declaration of vacant seat aims to uphold the constitutional order and address what critics call mischief of Parliament, preserving the MPP's majority by allowing the affected MPs to retain their seat until the case is resolved. We every year we Godfrey Cobnedi will support or say Ivan Old Testament pa na we support edibai na ofa nkomoya ayedie no to me I think say send Ivan o kind of public opinion ye fa bibi to say bill bia a Supreme Court omo keka bedimi di asem no be ma ne be me da wo ba no be da parliament yi nyina ya gi atum se sa mra ne de pese e bomode na president science na so bibi ekoye be ma ne be ma wo ba no ba ye ntwe na so no Supreme Court say no kra de emfa no ho abra 275 ye MPs nyina no agi atum se ye nhwe ne ye pass mra no na mra ne be ye pass bill na ye be ye mra no na yentimi ntwi obi obeye saa niemo ho no asem yentwe na so no Supreme Court say do de wonti yo ama nei Sam George mu ne pastors fo ne akọ demonstration Supreme Court say wonti enso afenyo marking de wo se wonya aso a wate.
Yes. And that is the source of this whole noise. So, and I make us say nobody's attacking Supreme Court for whatever, but this is the whole noise around it. To say, in a swift manner, no, you bet me a convening to act in this manner because of what? Government interest in Parliament is being curtailed or thwarted because of what? So, oh yes, Anna, you are no longer a court, but you are a political institution. Anna, you are there to further an agenda of a government, and that is the concern. The Supreme Court should be the last place I ever use you as a political institution. Virtually every single institution in Biano are ineffective, including this parliament. Yeah, because parliament, no me catch you be said. Supreme Court, the all year be parliament because parliament over the years are demonstrated clearly. So no ankasa muni ho, or no ankasa muni ho, and no name no the conduct of some of the people ne kwanya James Sanfaswa or disenfranchising the people of Sa. Not subsequent to that, Parliament, I'm making sure that that particular grave constitutional injustice is rectified. Clearly, a chance of Parliament and you're serious. And when you're serious now to fear, some of these things will happen to you. The Chief Justice can sit there and order you, say, no, we stop it. Why, in actual sense, that principle of separation of powers, just to ensure, say, your friends say, Obia bet me, I ain't a Juma without interference, and then I say, for why it matters most, we bet me by that. Such ordering around and then I say for no, it makes the whole parliament look some way be in the eyes of the people. So I think that it is the hypocrisy at Supreme Court at the end of the day, especially this current Chief Justice, because in recent times, I had words of advice for her. Say, Ninuya ba kuna no wohodo. Ebe gu Supreme Court na nima sekura anim ya bua usamani. Wana utimi di ruling ba ohe ruling nima timi sabi. common sense then as if we now were missing from the ruling. Emma Ghana for at Mudin. At some point, to go social media platforms. Dr. Aaron, unim the na koso okroma, a man for a church Supreme Court. Maybe who never be say I because the free says you bet me lose every institution, not our court. Because I don't know the last way I told the idea on Bajian. Now, a man for a church Supreme Court on various social way. Nobody is safe.
So the ma abrochire cry abrochire ne nipa be person ba abrochire ne emra na ye adwuma no.
Yes. And investors come to your country, they first look at your legal regime. Before any serious investor will come into your country, they look at the legal regime. They read around to see what I said JGB, say no musiti me kwana me konya asama, me kwaya investment or na asamba, can I get fair judgment? Every serious company sit down and they do all these things. And they don't just pick their information from people. They read from news portals and as for opinion concerns being raised by the people about the judicial system, the credibility, and how it tilted towards a particular interest. And in growing our democracy, people should not be so rigid in their thinking. Say, "Mena mako school na mako siya mrana me de pongo miya shemitintino mena mikura power de me pena meye." No, that era is gone. Now, Dr. Ren, Pontius Pilate no kwa no mo sha dade eche no mo kura nipa nsuro mu na tse wa pongo mi na taro ti so. Pontius Pilate no mo sha dade eche mo hunu nipa no. Mo kura na amanfo nsuro mo. Yesu jiro mo nim kan adwen kire mo. In the end they see here. And don't think that you can use your power to intimidate and bully people. Makacha say the power of contempt I want you call to be irrelevant largely in most jurisdictions, because you need to empower the base people. You're doing work. Why are you afraid to say I'm for people should speak about it. Man, I can never insult any judge. I can never disrespect Chief Justice in Nasafo. But as some no we will speak to the issues, speak our mind, and nobody nobody cares. You understand? We will continue to speak the truth until said Nema. So that notion of me nipa na meye we no sa money belongs to the 12th century. It belongs to the antiquity. And then I met your contempt and I say, so what they ruling banana people tell you in your face, say, hey, ruling na dabano nyansa nim and until na who the coso or social media no.
Yo abusia obetimi abomodiana onso wabechere wadwene ani owura Ivan Chey innocent na adwen komono. My main car was going to go have 19 bomodiana copebinom. I want to wumpa. Kona kwaji wodi or Daudi and 10 on these numbers. So 077962236426 and also with me after 0755252787. Obebusa say going to go have 19 DNA eboa ebusti wo immune system and our digestive health so a relaxo and a sounds a sleep aid a anti-inflammatory and stress a relief in Tibomodia Kojewodie a special promotion. That's why I also for a year January a year intake no a year overseas a year student house no a different time wa pese de obusuani bi ba school e UK ha wadofu bi pese obomodiana boano eba school ebomodiana be pursue a year benyanimdia bomodiana na frɛ ɛyɛ overseas student house ɛwɔ numbers wey so 02081443633 and now says 0 plus 23324285037 and now plus 233243173 yes 713 friend 10 more for a year all a year intake in January 2025 no discount kesiye ewo 50% ewo obia obabe MSc in cyber security, MSc in information technology, masters of public administration and a masters ewo a year education so bomodia na woni a year overseas house and momodia and retreat a year and komo and 10 my grand home and so baso mamenko ahumane so na sanama kwa ahumane so kai unu say a year memende ya a year 22nd 26 a year September ye ko a year kwa kwaji ani homo a year Kentucky Teko True ono so ba CB venue near Borough Hall Greenwich ya postcode near SE 108RD say wo particular to fre call www.grandhobaward.com for any information. So for 079-83-650-767 and 079-6082-7547. So hello.
Yeah, hello, doctor.
Yes. Johnny.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, Johnny.
Apom to say.
Mami chia, nyamiadum. Bichia Ivan so. Obo Juma. Yeah. Yeah, the nyamiasi for another week. Doc, don't say most often you banner you be cancer. Maybe you be thinking better say for political games and I say for political expediency. What you say? Don't say so. Obe kaya time you make say. Since Akufo-Addo be president, there is nothing Akufo-Addo did in Saka.
Oh, so free SHS. Free SHS.
Free SHS are school for school 2 weeks a year promote your
one member crying October 28, no massa come in 30th October.
Doctor, seb woman no over we say. Doctor. Since what they cannot cry, so they way referee.
Since then, my honor now line the car TNT Antony ye.
Since I will be reassy, yet do be reassy when you quite this school the other night. Won't you promote your be 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Me who be that?
It's a say so now, doctor, a damn be. I think some many Ivan have disagreement on this notion. They can say democracy and style. Media would need to go and look for your own ideal model of governance.
More call it for one party state. Kwame Nkrumah ba ya yanom so ye dictator.
Nobody is called maybe whether it is one. What I know, they say, the dog was as before because look one of the prerequisites of democracy is integrity. Which you need.
The identity and corner young conqueror. Na yentumi nsua na yenya bie because wo hwehwɛ mu yi menim say we asene nyina etumpo ni nyina no for any country be a great bia no they are built on a friend is a rule of law and also self discipline.
Yes, rule of law and self discipline now come. Ye na mami or ye chief justice ya okojina sorry de me kase or bomb pie senka we the empa no hu sabe the oma rule no nim nyansa.
This is what that's no wadane wadane Gisestina and wadane Gisestina into a bomb pie crew and emparero.
Yeah, I didn't know for Jesus Christ metna Supreme Court. Say ye di nimpa betena ho say famra ye adwuma say namra na say okodin se hu na wi akwa kogina sorry de me nimpa to obo tena tia me kase me temia me kase anya abutre na nsem hunu be no wedi so ono de wotene ba bi ne de asem abaso ondie in some way there was separation of powers and doctor even democracy this rule in Ukraine actually the flaws of democracy because on elected judicial on person or be making elected members of parliament on judiciary why they elected some court in Supreme Court. Are you getting the argument?
Ye tio na line to continue jina ye na ye ntwetwe nkomo na wo ka democracy dia iti ye nhwe na ye mfa aha sisi ete wonka
le patch na say or you elected arm of government, right? Or no be make emra am elected arms of government. What be paying? Then this tells you the democracy na ye can. Because if democracy is about representation, judicial not representing one. Judicial not or representing one or no over emra ediama represented party. You see, this is and yeah. Integrity in America, there are people within the MPT who knows to say a general mamana yen and yet, but you see, they don't have balls to talk because Akufo-Addo are silent. So some artists Akufo-Addo will to crime. Why machinations in an will to crime because or per se a can say a see ye no miniho. Onka ho, baby wakon, onka. no mind ye bet if in him or call heaven on any coupon ko ye meeting ko ye bet your mind come December 7. December 7 ye bet your mind baby okon ye was shema nti was said akona when I just say I can say na men kan wakotena ka say enyame na me prosecute your friend say protesters no onka baby okon onka na ye we bia nso or the beba ye de ne beba ama ne de na ba ni funu kra de ne beba because untimi ndi bone sa umbe say on mine say ni di jaw. And we need as Ghana, we need to speak up and say, look, je ekoso enye. Ye mine na say no, doctor. Enye wo doctor na say wo. And MP your mind Ghana and I say no. Say ya say bibia judiciary. Mami we and mami kan assembly. And say ye na especially in this phone ade na. Woman said John Mahama fa Oba ye na ye de said the age is now up for say be more Oba so abedi it take center stage. But you mami some phone odi.
Oh.
Yan try some phone mami we edi. E kire say enyo Oba bia na 77 so nim nyansa. Enyo Oba bia no nim nyansa nti say when we are glamoring, we are making noise the gender whatever. And wo on man che electoral commissioner or then enyo Oba. Chief Justice or then enyo Oba. Enyo mo no mo say o man. Enyo no mo say o man. Wo to send Ivan Kai. Sir, almost for a whole 4 years, someone need representation. But Obi just 2 months, 1 month to say 2 months, no need representation, and you would jinaso. Doctor, me cut 10 years and see ye bro.
You never see for my yo.
Ye na ye bebre no be bebra or the retail.
Yeah, that's it.
Na ta family ba you piano no.
And then so
yeah, that's it. Baby, I want no wahuma no. Yeah, that's it. Joe, yeah, that's it. Wahuma no, baby, I want no wahuma no. Yeah, but that's it. Thank you so much.
By way of introduction, let me start by saying we are new on this particular page. The best thing to do now is to just hit on the subscription button. We upload the video.
President Akufo-Addo, me no ka say the wakopimu appear.
Also no.
The capital city at the Pacific Island, nation, Samoa. Na womo to aba free na ya 21st year kwapim 26 year October idi and the woman nyina na say maame Madam Ayoko Botwi wono no opese ye beto aba nanka oba be ye a friend say Commonwealth Secretary General because of wono mapapushia President so ewa asiebi
na eka ho bi na die na so
the ekoso no de nyame ya aduma wo china ye ni bedi ekire because parliament betnasi from 10 a.m.
inform people and explain to a certain extent to a certain basic level obia benya no
British time
na where
ye ni bedi ekire
yes ye kira adwen so obia
media de bia menim ne se madam fu bia menim se wo ye adwuma wo one of the security se bia meka jose me background security na do bi bisa doctor wo kan se mi kire me na sem no kan ye na 2017 obo mama ne papa ewu 2017 na ne papa president bia wo man bi so a edin